All right, so this video is going to be discussing different transportation options you're going to have once you're here. The first most obvious method is your feet. You're going to be walking around quite a bit. Even if you've got the money and everything to afford a car, motorcycle, whatever, there's a lot of places where you're going to have to walk. It's not like you can just park directly in front of some of the buildings here, especially like you go to the big malls. You're going to be walking around. So, yeah, wear some good shoes, make sure you're wearing some socks. If you've got real strong feet, you can go the whole, I'm going to wear flip-flops, sandals, whatever you call them. You can go that route. Personally, I would never leave my neighborhood without regular shoes. The next option, though, is going to be the tricycle. And I almost forgot to mention, the best way that we're going to be explaining all this is we're just going to be overlaying images over the video so that way you can actually see what it looks like. Due to the whole quarantine situation, I can't get out and film things, so it's just going to be pictures. But the first option you're going to have is the tricycle. And it's essentially a motorcycle with a sidecar. We're not talking the World War II sidecars with the little guy in it. It's just going to be a bigger sidecar with the top on it. And that's how you're going to get around. The sidecars here are going to come in a variety of sizes and shapes and designs. Some of them you're only going to be able to fit one person in them, but those ones aren't as common because the drivers don't make as much money if you can't cram more people in, right? Mm-hmm. So a lot of them you're going to have enough room for at least two people side by side. If you're a real big guy, sorry, you're going to basically be in there by yourself.
Yeah, if you're big, you don't want to squish yourself.
Yeah, sometimes they're not very tall. You're going to be kind of squishing your head on the tops. So
it's because tricycle is for the Filipinos only.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm 5'10", and there's some of them that I get in my head is hitting the top. So if you're like 6'4", 6'2", or any higher than that, yeah, it might be kind of pretty uncomfortable in them. But these are going to be your main options. They're very cheap. They're designed to go short distances. Typically, if you're going to hire out a tricycle just like off the street, I would say the furthest that they might be willing to drive you is like what, 5 to 8 kilometers at most?
Maybe 10.
Yeah, maybe 10. Like, you got to give the dude a good tip. But any more than 10 kilometers, they're basically going to tell you,
because you
hell
can
no.
hire tricycle there whenever you want to go, as long as it's in the same zone and like in Binangonan, diba?
Yeah.
The whole Binangonan, as long as your tricycle is for that route.
But even if you have somebody that's like her brother that he could privatize the vehicle, cover up the signage, like you could hire him privately. Even then, the motorcycles on the side of these things are usually 125cc, maybe 150cc. They aren't any bigger than that. If you're a big fat guy, this motorcycle is going to have a hard time hauling you around, especially if you're going up hills. So they don't always maintain their vehicles that much. Yeah, so it's not going to be a very comfortable ride. Anything more than 10 kilometers, even if it's somebody private, they just aren't going to want to drive that mutant little vehicle like 30 kilometers. It's just not a good idea. So the tricycle is going to be your short distance route. You're going to see that a lot of times there's going to be multiple people packed inside of them. One of the options, when you get out to the side of the road, wherever it is you're going to hire these, typically you're going to be just getting it for yourself or your companion, and you're going to go to whichever location you want. You do have that cheaper option where if they're riding along the street and it's got room, you can have multiple people just kind of pack into it, and they just hit stops along the way. It's kind of like ride share. Your ride's a little bit cheaper, not going to be very comfortable. Usually Westerners don't ever do that. We did it once or twice, but after my legs got squished from people sitting in front of me, wasn't doing that anymore. But yeah, I mean, you can find people literally packed out on these things, like 8 people plus some chickens and some boxes and who knows what else, all packed into one tricycle cruising down the street. It looks, like a clown car. Your next step up from the tricycle is going to be the jeepney. This is a very iconic vehicle here in the Philippines, which unfortunately might be fading away soon. That'll all be covered in a later video. But jeepneys are essentially like a small bus. They're going to be open, so open windows. You're not going to have air conditioning in these things. And it's just two long bench seats. And it's just, they have their set routes that they travel. Mm-hmm. And if you look at the sides of the vehicle, or sometimes a placard in the front windshield, you'll see their stop points painted on it. So if you know where you're going to, you just have to look the sign or the street name, whatever it is, that's painted on the sides of them.
Up to the end point of the terminal.
Yeah, so that way you can kind of figure out, okay, you know, I need to go here or somewhere along this route. If you're not going to the final end destination, you can just tell them to stop and, you know, bounce out at the side. But they're going to be a little bit more than a tricycle. They're meant for the longer distance travel than a tricycle. But you're going to be packing in with a bunch of people. Luckily, though, because they're side bench seats, you've got quite a bit more leg room, but you don't have that wide shoulder room. So again, if you're a big guy, if the jeepney's already been packed out with people, don't get in the damn thing. You're going to kill somebody. If you're a foreigner or a big guy and it's not that full, if you can, sit closer to the back. So that way it's easier to get in and out. But if you don't have a choice, you just kind of sit wherever you can and don't hit your damn head on the ceiling because it's metal and it hurts. But your jeepneys are one of those things that you're going to see them in quite a few places. They're going to be very easy to find. They're just hauling all over the place. How much is like your typical Jeep ride from like here to SM?
Angono.
Yeah, like just to go to Angono.
The fare would cost 10 pesos. It's cheaper than the tricycle.
Yeah, because you're packed into it. But they're not going to take you directly to the front entry of SM Angono.
No, just on the,
You're going to go to one of the stops along the way,
yeah,
and then you're going to have to walk. So that's one of the pros and cons.
Yeah.
If you're in a tricycle, they're going to pretty much take you right to your stop.
Yeah.
The jeepneys, they're kind of like a bus. They've got their stopping points along their route. Mm-hmm. They're not going to veer off to drop you off somewhere if it's not on that roadway along their route. But they're really cheap if you don't mind no air conditioning and riding, you know, with a whole bunch of other people. Stepping up from that, you're going to have your vans, what they call UV, it's utility vans. And these are basically passenger vans. Some of them have different shapes, because, you know, different manufacturers, models, newer, older, but it's just a passenger van. Your vans are going to be much further distance routes, and I don't know if they run all day long or is it usually just during the morning and evening when people are going to work and stuff.
All day long, it depends on the driver.
So, but you can kind of think of the van as higher quality jeepney because it's enclosed, it has air conditioning, real seats, not a metal bench that you're sitting on.
But still, you're gonna pay for it.
Yeah, it's more expensive.
Yeah.
Like for us, if we're gonna go into Metro Manila, that's what, 2.5, 3 hours depending on traffic and method.
Yeah.
If you go in with the van, how much is the van over to the depot from here?
Around 50 pesos.
And that's like 10
$1.
kilometers?
I'm not sure, but
So I think from here to your office is what, 17 kilometers? 17 or 19 kilometers? And the terminal we stop at is...
but it's not directly
maybe
van
12.
going to the office because they have the...
No, but I mean from here to the van terminal, that's
yeah.
like around 10, 12 kilometers.
Yeah.
So like 10 kilometers is around 50 peso, which is like $1 US. So it's not that expensive, but when you compare it to the cost of, you know, a jeepney, taking jeepney routes, it's more expensive, but it's more comfortable. You're actually sitting in a seat. You're going to have air conditioning.
convenience for those passengers that going to go far,
Yeah.
and then they want to be still fresh when they.
Yeah, you're going to the office in the
Yeah.
morning. You don't want to
I'm
be
still
all
going to choose the
hot
van
and
instead
sweaty.
of the Jeep.
Yeah, because you're traveling like 2-3 hours in
Mhm,
traffic
yeah.
somewhere. If you're in a jeepney, it's going to be hot. The windows are open. You're going to be breathing in all the exhaust
And
fumes from the
also
vehicles
the-
around
yeah.
you. You're going to be hot, sweating. So by the time you get to your destination, you're hopping out of there. Been squished up in there. It's not very comfortable. And if you got to get up and
Yeah.
you're wearing business attire or something because you're going to work,
But if you
Eh.
were on a budget, still you can you can choose
Yeah.
the Jeep if you were on a
But
budget.
most people moving
Yeah.
here, though, they aren't going to be on that much of a budget. So as far as,
It's just $1.
yeah.
So
But your vans, that's going to be one of the key ways. So if you're not living in Metro Manila or Cebu, one of the bigger cities, if you live on the outskirts of a city or you live going out further into the deeper province areas that have vans operating, your van is going to be your number one option to get into the city. You're not going to want to take a jeepney. I mean, obviously, if you have a car or something, you're going to be using that, but your vans are going to be your good choice. They're, just more comfortable. That air conditioning makes a big difference. From there, some of these methods only apply to certain areas. So if you're in a bigger city, you're going to have your city buses. And these work similar to the buses on any other country. Only the buses are not nearly as new, modern, comfortable, kept up, running properly. A lot of times the drivers
yeah.
don't know how to drive. A lot of the buses are manual transmission, and these guys are just grinding gears like they've never driven a standard transmission before. For me, when I'm on the cheaper city buses, most of the seats that I sit in, again, I'm only 5'10", most of the seats that I sit in, my knees are smashed really bad up against the seat in front of me, so I have to kind of adjust myself to sit kind of crooked and sideways. They're made to pack as many people on it as they can. They're not supposed to, but a lot of times you will see the buses running with people standing and sitting in the aisles. Again, they're not supposed to do that, but they do it anyways.
Yeah.
If you are disabled, you're going to find the buses to be a problem because here there are no handicap buses. You're not going to find any buses with the the mechanized, electronic, hydraulic, whatever, wheelchair lifts. They're not going to be easy to get up into. Essentially, you're going to have to pay some kuya to pick your ass up and carry you inside of the bus. So if you do have certain disabilities, you're in a wheelchair, got to use a walk or anything like that, where your mobility is messed up. If you're a big guy, the entryway and everything going to these buses a lot of times is not big. So
That's the old buses, but
yeah,
now
so
they have
the newer buses
it's
are better,
twice
more
of the
comfortable. They have
door.
properly functioning air conditioning. A lot of them have a
Yeah.
TV that you can watch while you're getting a ride. Your seats are more comfortable. The padding is more than just 2 layers of cardboard with some old sheet wrapped around it. They're going to cost more.
But it's not much buses like that now.
Yeah,
Still, there's a lot of old buses.
yeah. Most of the buses are going to be the old school buses. It's a way to get around. If you're in the bigger cities, it's
Especially
one of the
when
ways.
you were in Manila.
Yeah. One of the other options is if you're going to be traveling long distances, like between provinces, going out into the deep province. If you're going to be going from Manila to Subic Bay, if you're going to be going Manila to Ilocos, Manila, Leyte, whatever long distance routes, you're probably going to be getting on the provincial buses. These are very similar to the Greyhound buses you'll have in the U.S. And other countries. They're going to have much more luxurious, comfortable seats. Not all of these provincial buses are the luxury buses. Some of them are the really, really cheap, uncomfortable buses, but they have, all the ones that I've been on were just nice, comfortable buses. Basically, it's a tour bus. So it's got a lot of cargo room underneath, and you get into it. Your seats are bigger, more leg room, more arm room. It's more comfortable. They have good air conditioning, lights above. So, I mean, they're just really comfortable. A lot of them, they'll have even like the curtains that pull over the windows so you don't get light. They're made for going those really long, like 10, 12, 18-hour trips. So the price on those just depends on where you're going to, where you're coming from, but it's going to be one of your good options. They're pretty comfortable, and it's not going to be just a straight stop, from one point to the next. They're going to make stops along the way, again, just like Greyhound. A lot of times they'll stop at a food place. If you're kind of out in the middle of nowhere, they still will stop, like pull over off the side of the road if there's a Sorry Sorry store. People can get out, go to the bathroom, grab some food at the Sorry Sorry store. Personally, I'm under the impression that the bus driver has a deal with the owner of these stores, saying that if they stop their bus at that store, that's going to be all the passengers getting off and buying up a bunch of stuff.
So they get a free meal.
The bus drivers kind of get a kickback from the store owners.
It's not really just a kickback.
I've seen it where, like, if 13 people get off the bus and go in and buy something, the guy will get 50 peso or 100 peso or whatever, just depending on what they're buying. But it happens. Sometimes it just might be like they'll give them free food and drink or something. But still, it's nice because you're going to be taking this long ass drive, and it's not like you got McDonald's and stuff to stop.
And some are really the terminal. They just put the the small store.
Oh, I mean though, like you're just on the highway out to the province, and it's late. People are wanting to get off, go pee or something. You're on a highway in the middle of nowhere, and there just happens to be a little Sorry Sorry store on the side of a road where a couple of your guys on scooters are parked having a beer, and boom, you pull off. But yeah, so you've got your buses. In the metro area, obviously, you've got trains, so LRT, MRT, I forget what the other one's called.
LRT and MRT.
But these are automated. They don't even have drivers on the trains themselves. They're completely automated.
No, there's a driver.
Where? In the back last car?
In the back and in front. Yeah, there's a driver there. In the front of the... It's still operated by
I didn't
drivers.
see the drivers. I always see just
automated.
empty. I thought they were like...
No, it's still with the driver.
But anyways, it's going to be similar to the trains you're going to find in Frisco, LA, New York, or anywhere else. It's got its stops along its route you get on. Not very expensive. Here you can get the Beep card. It's like a prepaid card with your fare on it. So when you're walking through the line to go pay, the long ass line full of people, that's the cash lane, and it takes a long time. But if you've got your prepaid Beep card, you just got a much faster route, and then you go up to the thing.
I think now they can have a load through your bank.
Yeah, now they're doing loads through GCash. You can reload through GCash, your banks and stuff, not just the prepaid terminals, because now during the quarantine, your Beep card is also able to be used on the new jeepneys and buses and stuff in Metro Manila too. It's all cashless because it's whole quarantine. But when the quarantine's done and most of these guys are coming over here, a lot of those payment systems are still going to be in place. So a lot of that cash-free payments, like if you want to take a bus or jeepneys, obviously not trikes. No trike out there's going cashless, right? But yeah, your trains, they're just like any other train. You're going to sit on this thing. It's not going to be as bad as like New York, where you got to sit down and hope that somebody didn't piss, shit, or puke in the seat next to you or something like that. That really doesn't happen here. I mean, it can, but it's not like what you're going to find in some of the other big cities around the country. Sorry, around the world, not here. The only thing here is you can be standing in line for quite a while. It just happens. Next, one of the options, which I do not recommend usually, is going to be your metered taxis. So if you're just wanting to get from one point to another point, one option you have is taxis. I'm not saying every taxi driver in the country is corrupt or bad, but from my experience, many of them, not all, but many of them will usually try to take advantage of a foreigner or a tourist if they don't think better. Because they feel that you don't know where you're going, you don't understand the money exchange, you don't understand any of that yet. So if the guy says your fare is, 3,000 peso, and you're like, well, how much is that? And he's like, $60. A lot of foreigners, I mean, if you just got a 2-hour drive going from Manila to Clark up there to Angela's, that's a 2-hour taxi ride. So you're going to be thinking like $60? That ain't, oh yeah, no problem, man. You're going to think you got a good deal. When the reality is you probably just paid over twice the fare. Or if you're going from one point to another, they're going to be taking all the long ways to get there because they are metered. It depends on the total distance and time. They're not going to take the fast route through traffic. They're going to intentionally sit behind the stalled bus because their meter's running. They're going to jack the price up. Not all of them will do this. Some of your taxi drivers are honest, legitimate, good drivers. But just, it's not worth the risk. If you ever have the option, go other routes. Just taxis, in my experience, are a last resort. The alternative is Grab. So Grab is just like Uber and any of these other, companies that do that kind of thing where you can get an app on your phone. But even if you don't have the app, essentially you're going to tell it where you are, where you need to go. They will automatically calculate the fare and tell you the fare before you even get in the vehicle. If you agree to the fare, then they'll they'll dispatch a driver. The driver will pick you up and take you to your location. You pay them that amount. They can't ask you for more than that amount. If you want to tip them, that's up to you. But whatever that amount that was quoted, that is your fare. If they've got to go at some route detour because the road was closed or under construction, tough shit. This is the price that was quoted. That's the price that you're basically going to be paying. For Grab, though, it's really simple because out of the airport, the malls, all these places, you're going to have these little kiosks. And it's just going to be like a little booth, a table or something there with the green Grab signage. And basically all it is there's an attendant there that has the Grab app on their phone, and they're just doing the same thing for you. They're just going to put it in where you need to go, and they're going to get it out. They're going to show you what your route would look like, how much, and if you agree to it, they'll get a driver out to your location, and that's it. Grab, they're usually able to figure out options. So if you have a whole bunch of stuff, you need a bigger vehicle. Instead of a small car, they can send a van. If you have, certain requirements like that, if there's going to be a lot of people, or if you're bringing back a bunch of groceries, whatever, they can get bigger vehicles. It's not just going to be some little mini sedan that you can barely fit into.
Do you remember when we are at the airport?
Yeah, we were at the airport coming because we're from the airport, so they got us a decent sized van.
No, but before we get the Grab, there's a taxi, diba? That is higher compared when you're going to book to Grab.
Yeah, so like from us, when I first got here at the airport, it was like a 2-hour ride from the airport to the condo. And the taxis were like very expensive because you're a foreigner at the airport, and that's again where they assume you've probably never been here before, you don't know how the exchange rate works yet, you don't know where you're going, you don't know really like any of that, so they think they can charge you more for things. But right there at the airport is the Grab. You get it, boom, they'll zip you to your location. And because they're paid for the route, they want to get that done as quick as they can, because that means they can grab another fare. So they're going to haul ass. They're going to go through traffic, zoom, 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 like, Evil Knievel going through all this stuff. So it's not like it's dangerous, but what I mean is you're just going to be better off using Grab services than taxis if it's available. There are certain areas they don't typically operate in, so they might drop you off in a place, but they won't pick you up in that same area. So like where we're at here, if I try to get an app, if I try to get a Grab using the app, they won't even come out here. They say that our region is not
There's
within
no
their region of
available-
operation.
Yeah, there's no available.
Yeah, we're like in an
region.
unsupported region or whatever. But, if we're out in Manila or something, they have no problem bringing us out here. So it's just, you got to figure that part of it out. If you're out in the province, you're not going to be able to have a Grab come pick you up unless you've made contact with somebody before and you have like got their phone number and you're going to make some special arrangement for them to come out and pick you up. If you're just trying to find a kiosk or an app to get them to come out to where you're at, good luck with that. It ain't happening. Oops,
Wait.
I bumped it a little. Oh well. So the next thing that we have for transportation, the ferries. Obviously, you can't take a Grab, a taxi, a bus, a train, or anything like that when you're going from island to island. So you've got ferries. If it's a very short distance, you can actually, a lot of times what I've done is they're like smaller fishing boats. You can basically go out to certain areas and hire a guy in a fishing boat. You just hop in their fishing boat and they'll cruise you over to the next island. Like going to Corregidor from out in Bataan province. It's just, we just get on a fishing boat. We don't do the whole ferry crap. We just, from Bataan, you just hop on a fishing boat for like an hour.
For an hour?
Well, it depends on where you're launching from, but it's a little fishing boat and you're going all the way up to Corregidor. And it's probably only like 30 minutes, but still. It's open seas, choppy waters, spraying all over the place, but it's nice, it's cool. But yeah, so you got your ferries. Ferries, different sizes depending on which one you take. Most of the ferries will have room to bring a motorcycle or cars. Not all, but most. And some of them, like the ones she's used before, even have rooms. You can rent a room, like a stateroom kind of. If you've been on the larger trains in the U.S., like Greyhound or other big trains that run all throughout the world, if you rent your own sleeper car, you're able to get, your little small car with a bed and all that. They have the same thing on some of these ferries. You can rent your own little room. So if you want to actually sleep comfortably on one of these 18-hour trips, you can get a room. I don't remember what the cost was, but your ferries are going to be your budget option from traveling from island to island. They're not bad. A lot of people that are coming from the West don't want to take the ferries. They're scared of ferries because they're always reading in the news about, a ferry capsized and people drown or something like that. Yeah, it happens, but very rarely when you consider how many ferries operate on a daily basis all over the country. Ferry accidents are they're not very common. It's only when
Also, if you're
it's
gonna
publicized.
get the ferries, you should also consider the weather.
Yeah, obviously if the weather's
If
real
it is
bad.
summer, then it's good to
Yeah.
have the ferry.
Like here, we've got a typhoon that just rolled through. So when it rolled through, they actually closed the entire seaport here. The whole seaport was closed because of rough seas. But yeah, kind of plan ahead and think about what the weather's going to be like. You don't want to be out on the open ocean when you've got typhoons and tropical storms and other stuff. The more expensive option you have from going island to island is airplane. There are quite a bit of aircraft that you can take, different sizes, because there's a lot of airports. Places like Palawan, like Puerto Princesa, there's a smaller airport there. Cebu, right now I think Cebu is actually trying to build a completely new airport that's going to be a major international airport. They're hoping it's going to be a competitor, in a sense, to Ninoy Aquino Airport in Manila. Clark, that used to be an old Air Force base for the U.S., and then they've converted it since into a commercial airport and like commercial industrial type area. But you've got a lot of smaller airports. There is somewhere a small airport near Baguio, because back 20 years or so ago, I remember you could fly from Manila to Baguio.
But I don't think
I don't
it's
know if
still-
it's still available. I can't find it. The other thing too is at the time, I don't know if it was because of military flights and I was getting access on military flights. I don't know how that works, but you're going to find different flights around. Some of these flights can be pretty cheap. Like there was a time where I was looking to go from Manila to Cebu. It was only like $30 or $50 for a round trip
If
ticket.
there's a promo,
Yeah.
then you can have it.
Air Asia, Cebu, Cebu, whatever. There's a lot of different airlines that they'll throw out promos that are super cheap. A friend of mine, a few years back, he was able to fly from Clark down to Cebu and back, and it only cost him $13. I don't know how the hell he got that. It was some kind
Just
of a
one
promo.
way.
But for $13,
How
that's
much that in
crazy.
peso? 1,000?
That's like 650, 650 peso for a ticket from Clark all the way to Cebu. I mean, that's dirt cheap. You can't even take a bus from one side of Manila to the other for that, right?
You might
So-
get the promo. Or he
Yeah.
might already have discount.
No, just some kind of, you go to their website and then you just every once in a while see promos. But yeah, so you've got your air flights. Another option that a lot of people will start to overlook is there are rental services here for rental cars. You've got Avis, Hertz, I don't remember what the other ones are. But you have all of your normal higher end rental places here, but they're going to be at the bigger cities, close to the airports. They're going to be more expensive, have more requirements. They're not going to have a big selection of vehicles because they're always rented out. But then you're going to have some of your smaller places. You got to be careful with renting from the smaller places because a lot of times with foreigners, they will try to do scams. Typically, you'll rent a car, do your quick walk around. Yeah, everything's good. You'll bring it back. Oh, sir, there's a scratch here. You got to pay us for that scratch. I'm like, what scratch? Nobody's even touched this car. Oh, yes, scratch right there. Oh, bullshit. That was there when I got it. Oh, no, sir. And they're going to basically force you to pay for repairs. So you got to be real careful. Literally do a complete inch by inch walk around of the entire vehicle. Check the inside of the engine, the seats, like look at everything. Because if there's one little spot on there that you notice, make sure they write it down. You take pictures of everything. That way, if something happens and they try to scam you afterwards, you've got evidence that it was there before it happened. I've seen it happen. It happened to myself more than once. But I was able to get out of it because I was smart enough to take pictures. My photographs were time-stamped, so I was able to prove to the local PNP, the police, that these were there before I even rented it, and they're just scamming me. They don't do anything to the people other than like, you shouldn't be trying to scam the foreigners. Now go away, and then that's it. They don't get in trouble for anything. But yeah, I would definitely say that if you're going to get rental cars, get them from a place that has good reviews. Just further recommended. But rental car prices aren't too bad here. You've also got a good selection of vehicles. So you can get your tiny little sedans, you can get your SUVs, you can get regular vans like passenger vans. If you're going to rent something where you're going to be bringing family, friends, or whatever out somewhere, you've got those options. But like here, the ones that I'm looking at, I don't remember which site I pulled this off of, but I just got this like a month ago. Like here you can get, let's say Group B, automatic transmission. It's got enough room in the trunk for like 2 bags. It's got air conditioning. It'll hold 5 people, well, 4 people comfortably, but it says 5. And it's just like it's a Toyota something, I'm not sure what model, but it's a decent sized little sedan. And you're looking at around 1,200 to 2,200 a day. So that's between $24 and $44. Yeah, it's like between $24 and $44 a day. So it'll just depend on the location you're picking it up from, where you're dropping it off, the model, mileage, whatever. But still, rates are either around or even maybe slightly a little bit cheaper than it might be like in the West. But these are some of your options. With rental cars though, one other thing is you can do self-drive. You rent the car, you drive the car, but here you can also hire drivers. So say you don't know where the hell you're going.
Because some of the owners don't want to other drive their car.
No, I'm talking about from a rental company. If you go to these rental places, you have the choice, not because of that. It's because just foreigners like to have that comfort of their own vehicle to go wherever they want to, but you don't know where the hell you're going. So instead of you being staring at your GPS the whole time trying to get around, you have the option of hiring a driver. You hire the driver and they'll take you wherever you need to go in your car. If at some point you're like, all right, it's been a few days, I know my way around enough. All right, see you, bro. And you still keep your rental car, it's just you no longer have your driver, so now you're free to drive yourself around. The other thing is, say you've already got your rental car, but it's like you're just you're beat, you're tired, you don't want to take that long trip out to the beach. You can hire a driver for the day who can just drive you guys out. You want to go to the bar, have a party, do some drinking, right? But you don't want to have to taxi your ass home, maybe get robbed or something. All right, you got your own car, hire a driver, you go out, drink, have a good time. Your driver is just going to be chilling, and then he'll take you right back home. Obviously, you get a decent driver, he's not going to rob your ass when you're drunk. So that's your option. And last, here you can rent motorcycles and scooters. There aren't a whole lot of places that do it, but you can find them. Typically, it's going to be in your tourist areas. So Metro Manila, there's only a couple, but like Angela's and some of the other places, you're going to find places that will rent out scooters and motorcycles. You don't have to have a lot of requirements. You just basically pay a deposit for it, and they'll give you a smelly ass helmet to borrow if you don't have your own. If you're renting a motorcycle, it's probably because you don't have your own, or you took a very long distance trip. So maybe you flew from Manila down to Cebu or Mindanao, Davao or something like that, right? You're not going to ferry your bike all that distance. You're just going to fly with your helmet. And then when you get there, you just rent a bike, scooter, whatever. If you're like me and you don't like scooters, yeah, good luck. There's not that many people in the country here that actually have motorcycles, let alone places that rent out motorcycles. Very, very rare to find somebody renting out an actual, real motorcycle. They're usually scooters. I don't want to be offensive because I know there are some people that like scooters. They enjoy scooters.
Yeah. It always depends on their, preference.
Yeah, but let's just put it, if you're a biker, if you are a motorcycle enthusiast, where, you're leaning mean, leaning into it, and you see that guy on the scooter next to you, you're kind of thinking that's the hippie, those are the uncool people. So
it's not really uncool.
Yeah, if you're the cool guy, you won't be caught dead on a scooter, basically. But
It
there are
depends.
still some people out there that ride scooters.
Yeah.
But you do have those options. You can rent one of the really small, like 100cc, 90cc scooter.
They don't have choice.
Yeah.
Just like if only scooter are available.
Yeah, so like if
then
you
they
need a
don't have
ride but you don't
choice.
want a bicycle, you can get a scooter.
It's either they walk or they ride a
I'll throw on a ruck
scooter.
and I'm gonna probably walk.
Hmm.
But yeah, so I mean, you can get like one of the small scooters for like 400 or 500 peso a day. That's like less than $10 a day. Um, there are a few places I have seen that have normal motorcycles, and they're costing anywhere from 1,500 to 2,000 per day. So $30, $40 per day minimum. Now, when you look at the price of renting a motorcycle, and again, these aren't going to be like a real normal motorcycle. These are the local smaller bikes. So we're talking less than 400 cc. Usually they're 200 or 250 cc motorcycles. You're not going to get a 500 to 600 or 1000 cc big bike. That ain't going to happen for rentals. No. So for this small motorcycle, but it's still a motorcycle, you're going to be paying the same as you would a decent sized rental car. So take it for what you want. Any other transportation options you can think about that I might have missed?
The bike.
Yeah, bicycle's not what I would call transportation.
Sometimes.
Yeah, so you do have bicycle if that's the route you want to take. There are places, plenty of places here that sell bikes for cheap. I don't know if you guys have like bike rental places.
Maybe in Manila.
Maybe. Probably
don't
like
know.
touristy
It's
areas
very
might,
rare.
but yeah, like in the West, a lot of places you can get bikes for rent. Like there'll be places literally out on the boardwalk in LA area that have bikes. And it's like a coin operated thing. You pay a couple coins, you get the bike. You gotta like put in some information on them, an app or some crap, but you get a bike. And then when you're done using it, you just walk up to any of these machines and lock it back in and whatever. But they don't really have that here. But
No.
you can probably buy a used bicycle here for less than, $30, $40. So they're not expensive. But yeah, there's a little bit longer video, but that's going to be all your different transportation options you're generally going to have available. And I know doing this picture thing, it's not going to give you the best feel, but at least you can get a visual idea of what these vehicles look like. And if you're wanting more info on it, just go into like YouTube or something and pop in a search. Jeepneys are very unique to the Philippines. Tricycles are fairly unique to Southeast Asia. Other countries like Indonesia uses bajai, but that's probably your better way to try and find videos of people inside, what it's like to ride inside the cramped spaces of those. Just look on YouTube. So hopefully this has been some useful, entertaining information. If you got any questions, go ahead and let us know. Thanks.